So welcome back to Life by the Horns, where it is all bull and no bullshit. Today, Dustin, we want to talk about something that we've been kind of chatting about a lot lately, and everyone, it seems, has been chatting a lot about this lately. But want to talk about AI, but I want to start with something that's really been on my mind lately. We've been living through what I think has been maybe the greatest, fastest technological shift in human history. I think AI is automating everything from customer service to content creation. But what's interesting to me, and I think this might actually be creating, I really think this actually might be creating the biggest opportunity for us to make connection, real human connection that we've seen in decades. Am I crazy? Or do you see that too? Like, I think, it's weird, right? Because obviously you automate everything and, all this jazz. But I honestly think this is the greatest opportunity we have to connect with people. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it has the possibility for that. I just don't think most will. I think that's going to be the biggest game changer. I mean, we watched it, with automations and whatnot years ago. I mean, everybody did everything they could to streamline process, and whatever could be automated was automated, which we even lived through this as an agency years ago. We got to a point where like the hyper focus was nothing but automation. Mm-hmm. And then we lost the human touch point. And I think so many businesses, the human touch point is one that can be very erratic depending on how things are going. Mm-hmm. And then you've got to train people well when it comes to service and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of businesses like the idea of less interaction with people, but I think that's where they're going to go wrong in the future, because that's where people are going to, I think, want the most. Because I think it is great to, leverage AI and automate and all that kind of stuff. But I think, as a business, where you can really lose is when you over leverage and lose the connection with people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what do you think just over the last 12 months has been the greatest, just dramatic impact that AI has had that you've witnessed specifically in business over the last 12 months?
Creating more efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely creating more efficiency. It when leveraged well, it speeds up the process of a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And you can also take things that have very defined frameworks and leverage those frameworks to create prompts to do the thing that you're wanting to do, 2, 3, 5, 10, 100 times faster than we were able to do before.
Yeah. What do you think scares business owners about AI?
I mean, I'm watching it right now, man. There's one couple in particular that I know that's in the same space as us. And I mean, they've got a whole summit that they're about to do about this, how, the model in this, niche has completely changed. And it's going to take all human jobs away and all this. And I completely disagreed. I think that there's some fear, but I think the fear comes from the unknown. But I think the biggest opportunity here is the pivot shift on how we do what we do to take care of people. And I think that lives in every business. But I mean, I haven't, read this the other day, and it was like, the question was, who do you think is going to win when it comes to AI the most? The very big, very established businesses, or, the reckless entrepreneur that wants to shake some things up? And I think both can, but I think the smaller ones have the biggest opportunity, because it's also giving them the opportunity to get bigger faster, because there's not necessarily the need for tons and tons of manpower.
How do you think, for a small business that can get big faster, what are some of the other challenges that they might face?
Well, I mean, leadership. I mean, I think, prior to this, one of the things is as you grow a business, it's painful. And, this can accelerate that growth, but it doesn't accelerate necessarily the wisdom in order to lead at a larger capacity. I mean, even something, speaking to accelerating a process the other day, we work with a virtual reality, theme park company that kind of merges the two together, and they're going through their first round of, getting funding and all this, or attempting to get funding and what their goal was and everything. But this whole world that they're in is completely new to them. And so I was like, hey, I don't mind leveraging, some of my ability to kind of accelerate this research process for you. So I spent 20 minutes hanging out with Supergrok and, giving them context on the company, what they were trying to do, the initial round of funding, the needs that they had, based off of what their CEO had shared with me. And basically just broke down this roadmap of how to leverage that funding. It was very specific to how to leverage it inside of the United States, but they need developers and a lot of other things. So then we started looking at other countries. And then one of my favorite things in doing research now, which I think is so important when leveraging AI, it's not just telling it what you want to do, but also asking it the things that you may be missing. Yeah. Where are my blind spots in this process? Or based off of everything that I've shared and everything I've asked, what are things that I'm not asking? And so it turned around and gave me all those things. And, I was able to take something that, honestly would have probably taken weeks, to figure out before, and was able to knock it out in 20 minutes, make him a video and send it on its way. So,
yeah. So as more people learn how to use AI in the right way, right? How do you get it as a business owner? How do you get a competitive edge over, like, what does that look like in the future, in your opinion? Like, where is a place that we can, as businesses, stand out? Like, because if everyone's just using AI and automating everything, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not doing the work for you per se.
Okay.
I don't, and I think the biggest thing that I see when I watch other people leverage it, for the most part, they leverage it at a very superficial level. And if that's all everybody's doing is the superficial, then I'll be honest, I wouldn't be concerned in the slightest. It's the folks that know how to leverage it the best. And kind of like, even, when we're doing copywriting and those kind of things, it's like, okay, we get this, this information, this copy, these headlines, and it's like, okay, so what? And that's the thing with AI that I think gives you the biggest potential or possibility, is trying to make your way through those onion layers and just get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in understanding. Because a lot of times our question, or what we prompt it to do, is it's very superficial. It's very vanilla. It's not deep enough. And even in stuff I share with, you guys on the team, I'll share the whole thread of questions that I asked it to eventually get what I wanted out of it, because I started out with what I thought was good context and I didn't get what I wanted.
Right.
And then we got a layer deeper, and then a layer deeper. And I had to tell it what I did like, what I didn't like. And then finally you're like, oh. And where most go wrong right now, where I could see most people get lazy in this whole process, like, again, it's not doing your job 100% better than you. It's how you give it inputs, get outputs, give it more inputs to then finally get it to where you want to go. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to miss, because, a lot get frustrated, like, oh, I asked it to do this thing and what I got in return was not what I wanted. I'm like, well, you didn't ask it you didn't ask it well enough. It's
right.
It's kind of, even like with, training people, it's the same thing. The difference is, on the receiving end, AI is going to do exactly what you told it to do, versus people are going to interpret it the way they want to.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I think people miss that intelligence, man and artificial intelligence is just simply man-made intelligence, right? So it's this idea of, AI is very good at collecting information and regurgitating it back. However, intelligence isn't wisdom, right? So knowing how to use knowing how to use and what you're looking for. Like, if you're not really, we can see it in marketing. If you're not really an expert in your field and you really don't understand the questions to ask it, hey, give me a marketing strategy. Okay.
Well, I'll give you one the other day that I thought was super neat. So I don't really follow the news very much, other than what's going on in, our space. And I don't watch ESPN anymore. I just don't have time for any of that. So clearly a couple weeks back, there was a rift going on between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Okay. And my wife is just like, man, I can't believe, and all this stuff. And I'm like, nah. I was like, people are looking at this in the wrong angle. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, they're doing this for a reason. They're trying to shift our attention away from something else. I was like, that's very common. And I was like, both of these guys clearly like media attention, but what is really going on? So jumped into Supergrok, asked the questions, and I'm like, man, I don't know. Then we were kind of, again, superficial. And then we just kept going and going and going and going. And then finally, I've got this laundry list of information, about the two of them, what's going on right now, what things they may not, as far as the government and Elon are concerned, want us to be paying attention to. And there's a lot of backdoor handshaking and deals going on that, So then I, show this to my wife and she's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, for me, it was not so much, to sit here and be like, oh, let's be a conspiracy theorist. It was like, now let's get into the root of what's really going on in the world that they may be trying to pivot our attention from.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, let me ask you this. What's the most just maybe creative way that you've used AI so far?
This is going to sound stupid. Well, from a creative standpoint, honestly, it's doing this tattoo design right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there are some AIs that are specific to tattoos, but I was super disappointed in them. And I'm looking for something that has a ton of meaning to me. And the interesting thing is because I leverage chat, and this, but I leverage ChatGPT so much for a lot of things that I do. It knows me really, really well. And so it did not take a ton of prompting to start getting these beautiful designs that have come out. And even the artist that I'm using, I mean, even he was like, man, like each one of these pieces that you've sent over to me has saved me a day's worth of work. And the shitty thing for him is if he would have created it and I didn't like it, then he's got to start over versus, I'm getting these outputs of these designs. I'm like, yep, I like this. I like this. Nope. I want her to be winking and have a nose ring on her left nostril. I want this to move here. And it does it. And, depending on what platform I'm using, whether it's Sora or just ChatGPT, it does it relatively way faster than he could.
Yeah.
So but that's just one way, man. I think what I like the most is it's been able to take what we already have, whether it be a thought or a process or something that I'm trying to do, and it just elevates it and makes it happen faster, or things that I've never done before that I know what the end goal is and a relative idea of what I need to accomplish. And then basically asking for the step-by-step roadmap on how to do it. And it's not perfect every time, especially when it comes to leveraging other platforms. And, it'll give me the directions. I'll jump in, go start trying to create. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. And then it's like, oh, you're correct. In March 2025, they did an update on, and then it's new instructions. It's like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know, man. That's just some of the things.
Yeah. That accelerated learning, I think, is probably my favorite thing. Like, it's not, not necessarily about making it do things for me. Like, it's more like, I want to learn this thing. And I don't want to go train or hire a consultant or somebody to teach me this. I can literally, share my screen and it can walk me through the steps on how to do something. Yeah. Whereas, before, I'd have to maybe watch 6 million YouTube videos.
I feel like an idiot. I didn't know I could share my screen and it could walk me through how to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's some stuff out there. We might share some stuff in the comments here for the team, for the listeners. But yeah, man, I think so from just overall, like, I know we've talked a lot about human connection and customer service, right? So what I initially said in the beginning of this podcast is I think it's the greatest opportunity for human connection. So where my mind goes is we are already in this era where everyone's glued to their phones, right? They're glued to their devices. And I feel like AI has accelerated this idea of like disconnection. Like everyone's trying to automate everything. And customer service, for instance, the bar is so low, right? So,
customer service, lead generation, like it all sucks.
All of it. Yeah. And so it's like, for me, it's almost like I see this desert kind of being created where, if a business can kind of come in and kind of, there's a huge thirst that's kind of going to come on the back end of this for human connection, I feel. And I think the businesses that really focus on leveraging AI in a way to where, they're trying to elevate their service versus like disconnect. You know what I mean? I think there's a huge opportunity there. Am I crazy for thinking that? Do you see that? I know we've talked a lot about service and how AI can help it. What are your thoughts?
It'll give people, businesses and the people that are working in true customer service inside of businesses that do it very well, a massive advantage. And I mean, we talked about this briefly the other day, but there's a reason that people want to be in the Delta Sky Club. There's a reason that people shop at Louis Vuitton. There's a reason that, People will pay to sit in first class. It comes down to service. There's some prestige and stuff there. I mean, clearly people like to, their ego stroked and they're like, oh, that's a nice bag. That was expensive or whatever. But so much of it comes down to service, and people will pay for that. And that's where I think brands are also going to get a competitive advantage when they really focus on speed to delivery, but service throughout the process. And it's something we've talked a lot about here. Absolutely. I think our service is really good. It's not exceptional, in my opinion. I think our deliverables are exceptional. But when it comes down to the human connection piece, a big part of what we're focusing on, right now within this next quarter is how do we take the things that are important but can be done by AI or through automation off of our plate, and then leverage that additional time to connect even further, with our clients and really understand their goals and find ways to fast track getting them to their goals. And it gives you guys so much of an advantage over the competition that's out there spinning their wheels that's just trying to get the result. The result matters, but how you make people feel is what they remember. And I think that's where so many businesses have the biggest opportunity, is to say, okay, it's not so much let's just focus on AI and automation to be more profitable or more efficient. It's how do we keep clients longer, increase our lifetime value, increase our ticket size. And in some cases, we're able to, with some of our services now, decrease what we charged because speed to delivery is so much faster. But with that as an opportunity, it allows us again to create more value to the customer. It's like, well, wait a minute, it costs a little bit less of an investment because they're smart enough to leverage these things, and their level of customer service is 5 times better than it ever was. And I think that's the biggest benefit that businesses, if they really focus on that, it's, how can I eliminate the things that people don't necessarily need to do and double down on the things that make people feel good?
Yeah. What are some things that you feel like people could eliminate? Just looking at, you're playing with AI all the time and kind of brainstorming. What are some things that people should probably eliminate from there, and let AI handle versus things that they should not let it touch?
Data analysis, it could do it faster than anything else that's out there. So I think as long as you can ask, as long as the information is framed correctly and you ask the questions the right way, that goes away completely. Inbound customer service can go away completely. As long as you've got, a great knowledge base, a great website, really great information at hand about FAQs and, how we would handle things, and also build some empathy into that, because that's something that people say, hey, I can't do, it can. You have to prompt it accordingly. It's not true empathy. It's not coming, from heart to heart, but it can be done. But I think inbound customer service can go away. Call centers, honestly, are going to go away. I think some people may think it's a couple years down the road. I think it's 6 to 12 months and they start getting eradicated, which is sad. I think because a lot of those are in third world countries. So that's going to create an impact there for sure. Other things that could go away. Those are the simple things. I mentioned lead generation earlier. That's already going away for a lot of companies, but people are doing it so poorly. They're trying to leverage Clay and all these other things to enrich the information and be more personalized. But I think we're all already getting numb to it at this point. But what it can do is if you have inbound leads coming in, it can call those people right away and book them in for appointments. Yep. It can follow up 20 minutes later if the person's like, hey, I'm busy, can you call me back? So there are so many things that it can do. I think one of the things that is, it's so simple but so beautiful in my opinion, like review responses. Like every business owner, yeah, they love the good ones, right? But it's the bad ones that they get frustrated and you see their emotion come out. And no, let it, even if it's just a draft that you need to let it respond for you, and it gives you that degree of disconnection, which I think is important, for a lot of business owners, because, this is near and dear to our heart, right? So, those are just some of the things. SOP creation, like it could literally do, anything and everything. But I think what most businesses should do, which we're, doing this right now ourselves, is map out that entire customer journey from start to finish, and what things in there are low hanging fruit that you can start removing from people's plates so that they can really focus on what matters the most.
Yeah. I was going to say that's important, because when you try to automate, you know what it's like when you try to automate something that you don't have a full grasp on, and it's right. Like,
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, but then you go back to, and what questions am I not asking? Or, you map out this journey and you start saying, these are the things that we're going to automate and leverage AI, but then also asking AI, is there something in here that we may be missing, that human connection is very important? But I think the other big opportunity for business owners, and you clearly have seen this, Jarvis, because you've been on the tip of the spear when it comes to, removing team members from the team that are not a good fit. But for us, it's been a lot easier to double down on our core values and what we're trying to create, because we don't need 1 million people to do it. We just need some really fucking good ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing. If you're in the job market, 5 years ago, you could get away with shitty customer service, not showing up on time, all these other things. Very quickly, I think it's gonna shift that culture, and you're gonna see the people that are truly a standout, and the ones that they better be learning a skill. And if it's not driving an Amazon truck, it's going to be something else. I mean, and I think that's the other big thing. And if you're in business and you're looking at business investments, I think, one of the biggest areas of opportunity with the onslaught of AI is, the service, or your like home service based industries. Because if you can get people to do the actual technical thing in the trenches very, very well, where most of them always suffer is the administrative, the process, the customer service side. This can fix all that. It's so frustrating as a consumer. You try to have somebody come out to do the thing at your house and you're frustrated. They don't show up on time. They don't answer their fucking phone. Like all these things, it's because they're overwhelmed by a lot of stuff they've never done before. Well, this can fix all that. I mean, all of a sudden you've got someone that can answer the phone, or something that can answer the phone for you 24/7, book appointments, reschedule appointments, answer questions and all that. And all you have to focus on is just the actual project management. That's a game changer. So for the people in that space that start leveraging the technology faster, or leveraging people that know how to use the technology faster, they can hugely accelerate their growth.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, all the things you can do, from a business side. It's just endless. I know one of the biggest things that helped me was interviews, right? So interviewing potential team members, and then going back through that transcript when we have those, and throwing that transcript into AI and saying, hey, what are some blind spots based on this job description and the things I'm looking for? What questions should I have asked? What are some red flags that I missed? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't even pick up on that. So, I think there's, on the business side there, man, so many ways. But I want to talk to you also. I want you to kind of share some light on the personal side. Like for you, like how has AI, man. Like how have you used AI to obviously use, to elevate you personally, which has also obviously affected you in business as well?
Yeah. So I've been on this like personal growth journey for forever. And, in the last like 12 months, I've really tried to dig into a heightened state of emotional intelligence and understanding. And, although I've got great people in my corner and I've been given a lot of amazing resources of, things to walk through and do, where I've seen the biggest impact is when you do it consistently. And what I mean by that is like, you don't go talk to your therapist once a week. Like that's just a part of it. But what's really helped me is to be able to take the exercises and things I've been asked to do and then go and leverage AI. Again, I said my chat GPT knows me very, very well. Knows almost every damn thing about me, which is scary too. But it's been able to take, like I had to make a money manifesto recently. And so, I had a relative framework of the exercise. I was able to share with it the exercise, my experiences in my childhood and early life with money and everything else. And it created this money manifesto for me, this daily mantra of, the things I've got to say and all this kind of shit. And it did it very, very quickly and very, very well. The other thing that I had done recently was, I was asked to sit with my younger self and just kind of go through what life looked like then and what life looks like now, and remind myself like, hey, it's okay. We're good. And I I ended up creating letters for myself at like 5 different periods of my life. And it did so well putting the letters together. And then I turned around and had it, or used a different model, but had it read it back to me as me. Mm. And that sounds ridiculous, but I've listened to him dozens of times. And it's so interesting to go back to that place and feel how you felt and like harness that. And then also be in the present and be like, hey, we're doing a damn thing. Mm. And I even took my future self, 5 years down the road. And it was kind of cool and reassuring that we're on the right path. The path's going to look different in 5 years. We don't know it yet, but, and I wrote an obituary from my son about me, which that one was tough for sure. But and the interesting thing is, and I mentioned this earlier, it's not like, you just say, write an obituary, from my son about me when I die. There's way more context that went into it than that. I mean, I'm telling it stories and all these things, but it basically takes my thoughts that I'm just kind of spitting out, and it frames them better and it elevates them. And so, which is interesting, because when I've shared this stuff with other people that really know me, they're like, holy fuck. Or even my social media. Like I give it the input of what I want. I give it lots of context. It spits something out. If I don't really love it, I'll go in and edit and change it. But it's just a lot of input, output, input, output, input, output. Mm-hmm. And it's just gotten better and better in time. But yeah, it's almost like, the elevated assistant to me that I didn't even know I needed. Or I can even share with it something that, is really frustrating me. And based off of what it knows about me in the context of the situation, and I can ask it, what am I not seeing from that person's lens? How can I approach this differently to get a different, result than what is expected in this conversation? And it's like, yeah, great questions, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, damn, like that was really good. Yeah. So it's just been kind of this unbiased, very transparent, explanation of the reality that I need. Mm-hmm. I mean, even someone else shared this prompt, and I'll paraphrase, but it was like, if you're using a language model consistently and it knows a lot about you, ask it, based off of what you know about me, what are the 5 blind spots or 5 things that I really need to be aware of, going into 2025? And the shit that it spit out, I was like, well, fuck me. But it was so spot on. Mm. And so, and I think you have to be open to receiving, okay, and understanding, and also know that, if it doesn't have a lot of context, it is not the gospel. And that's the other thing. You have to be very good at being able to decipher information. Mm-hmm. Because it's going to give you information. But again, it really comes down to the context and the inputs that you're putting in. But yeah, it's been a game changer for me. It's really been able to kind of consistently keep me on the track or go in the direction that I need to go in. And it's helped significantly for me from a leadership perspective to be able to look at pain points inside of the organization, what we've done to fix them, what hasn't worked, and is this the right direction to do this thing again with a different person, or should we potentially try this? And it breaks down the pros and cons of each and why this didn't work and why this would be a better thing. And I mean, we just went through a transition here literally this week based off of, my thought and my inputs to, my AI and saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing, what do you believe? Right. And the outputs were great. We moved in that direction. And so far, I think it's a beautiful thing. So,
yeah. Yeah. So, on the personal side, it sounds like you're giving a lot of giving ChatGPT a lot of context about you and your personal life.
Yeah.
What would you say to people that might be a little fearful about that? I mean,
who gives a fuck? The information's already out there. I mean, not everything that's in your head and in your heart, but I also think at the end of the day, what's it going to hurt? like if you're truly your authentic, like I'm not feeding it my social security number and my credit cards and, you know, all that stuff. But like, what is it going to, are you afraid that you're going to get exposed? If you're really honest with it and what it's giving you back is really the authentic version of your conscious and potentially your subconscious and the things that you're not thinking, why do you care? Like, I wouldn't be upset at all if my wife logged into mine and said, hey, you know, what are the, you know, like 5 things that, you know, that I could do to, you know, I don't know, be a better supporter to my husband. What are the things he's maybe not telling me? I wouldn't give a fuck, because what it's going to spit out are things that are actually relevant and helpful.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, hell, I even, you know, my former assistant, she had access to all this stuff. She used it constantly. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
You know, or to sit in my social media and be, you know, helping me, you know, do like I think as a person, like if you've got something to hide and you're, you know, confiding all that stuff in it, but you wouldn't want the world to know any of it, well, you need to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I think the real reality is if you're comfortable telling your story, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, and there's a lot in my story that I was like, there's not really a story here. Now that I've been going through those different like chapters of life, I'm like, holy fuck. But
you need to write a book.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been thinking about it, but I think that there's just there's so much that you could benefit from. I think there's so little that you could lose unless you're, again, trying to hide.
Yeah, I agree. I struggle with it, you know, whether I'm gonna put, you know, there's certain things in there, you know, that. But you're right. I mean, obviously, we're not feeding it socials and stuff like that. And at a certain point, if you're going to grow and get to that next level, you need to be, you know, willing to be your authentic self. It's just, you know, some things can ruin if you don't put anything in there about other people that you don't want, you know. But yeah, you know. But yeah, man. So transitioning from business, or from personal back to kind of business, what are some, for people that have been just really hesitant about using AI, where would you say, hey, look, start here?
Man, you know, I would mention a couple of Facebook groups to go to, but they all got shut down 24 hours or so ago. I'll tell you where I started. So, which is very different than probably most, but our company early on was, I mean, God, 18 months ago was already trying to start to leverage it. Mm-hmm. And so in the team had come up with this idea that we're going to create these, you know, brand voice guides, and then we're going to create, you know, this own custom GPT for, you know, a customer. Actually, we weren't even doing custom GPTs at that point. We were based off of the brand voice guide, giving people instruction on how to leverage it with AI. Mm-hmm. And so we're sending these things out to customers and whatnot. And I'll be honest, I didn't think much of it. I didn't leverage it at all. And then I felt like a damn asshole, because I'm like, you know, here our team is doing this, and I don't even know if it's worth the shit. So I don't want to talk it up to people. So I went in one day and I followed all the prompts that the team had created for a different company that I was a part of or owned previously. And I was so impressed by what I was getting back in the accuracy, because the information that we fed it was very, very thorough. The prompts were very, very thorough. And then so I just started going down this rabbit hole of, well, what other things can it do? And it was simple shit. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, my stepson's always talking about, you know, how he only has so much money a week at this point in his life, and he wants to eat well, but he doesn't even know where to begin. So I literally just went in there and was like, you know, I gave him information about my stepson, you know, height, weight, build, what he's trying to accomplish, his weekly budget for groceries, and to create a meal plan for him based off of all that. And it did. And I was like, okay, well, this is a start, but I actually need the grocery list for this to make it easier for him. And it did. And then, but what I didn't ask was, you know, how much of each thing. It just gave me the stuff. So then it turned around and it gave me, you know, 3-pound bag of red potatoes, this, that, and the other. So then it gives me all that. And I'm like, well, this is great for him. Now let's take it a step further. What are the recipes for every meal? Because I know he doesn't know how to cook. Mm. And then it gave him all that. And I showed him this. I'm like, dude, I did this in 10 minutes. Blown away. But I would say that, and again, that's just one example for me. I think what people should do, there is some amazing school academies out there that you should join. Very low cost. There's some great, especially now that all these Facebook groups got eradicated. Most of these guys already lived in school. YouTube, go to it. I'm sure if you typed in, God, AI for beginners in small business or something, I'm sure there's going to be some great video series and stuff in there. But I think you would be ignorant if you just think that this era is not going to have an impact in every industry in the world. Yeah. And so, and that's kind of where I was sitting, a year or so ago when I hadn't leveraged. I'm like, it's not that this is coming, it is here. And so I was like, I have to start adapting to it at some capacity. And I'm very glad I did. I wish I would have started a little bit sooner, but I know, people even in the agency space that we're in that are not even using it. And it is blowing my mind. Like, and and I've got a few guys that in this space that I mentor, here and there. And I love sharing with them tools and stuff that we have found and how to leverage them to create more efficiency in their business. Cause they're like, oh, we're about to hire another. I'm like, whoa, why are you doing that? They're like, oh, we picked up some more clients. And I'm like, well, if you use these tools, like you wouldn't have to do that anymore. But yeah, I think you just got to start. Just literally go to ChatGPT, create an account. You don't have to get the pro version and just start. Yeah. Start thinking about, you could do something as simple as, let's say you're not even a business owner. Let's say you're, again, my son, he's going to be 22. He's, trying to date and all this kind of stuff. And, if he, let's say he wanted to go on a date in Atlanta this weekend and he had $100 and he knew that this girl liked Thai food and art. He could literally go into ChatGPT, give it some context on her, give it his budget, ask for the best Thai restaurants to go, again, within his budget, as well as, some events and stuff that may be going on this weekend in Atlanta that are in this, art niche that she's interested in. And it'll tell him exactly what to do and give him the reviews of the restaurants and the link to their GBP so he can go take a look at the food. And, it'll do all that for him. And some may say, well, that sounds really lazy. It sounds fucking smart to me and very efficient.
Yeah. There you go. ChatGPT can be the new Tinder for you guys. So, so my final question is, there's this fear, right? Not just about using AI, but just that AI is going to like take over the world and start killing people. And it's going to be like, it's going to be, super crazy or whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what's the worst case scenario in your opinion? And with AI and
so there was an AI that two of my team members were talking about probably 2 years ago, and all it was doing consistently, the whole premise was that to identify the quickest way to kill the world, and it was constantly just rerunning different scenarios. That's fucking terrifying. Yeah, but no, that is terrifying. I think that kind of like with social media when it came out, man, it initially, was presented to us that it's going to connect people, to greater capacity. And in some way it has, but over time and based off of, how you monetize and grow these things, there's a lot of negative that has come from it. We are the most connected and disconnected we've ever been. I watched something the other day, which was like a 60-year, 70, 80-year timeline of the amount of connection we used to have with people on a day-to-day, like real connection, going to barbecues and birthday parties and all the things that we used to do. Like, back in the day, like men used to get together on Sunday and fucking watch football and shit together. You just, like, there's all these things that we used to do. And they showed this time lapse in the amount of time that people are spending on personal technology devices versus the amount of time they're spending connecting with people has completely flipped, which is sad. And so, with AI, what do I see? I see that I think there's going to be it's going to fix a lot of problems. It's going to create a lot more. And I think the biggest problems it is going to create is just massive exposure to the ones that don't want to grow and adapt. And I think it's going to create a much bigger chasm in finances. I think the people in the companies that leverage it really, really well will see really accelerated growth in that area of their life. The ones that don't know how, I think, I mean, it's even sad, you know, I see this stuff in Facebook groups and stuff now. It's like, you know, I work at Kroger, you know, I'm 35 years old. I get $18 an hour. You know, there's $18 an hour is not enough for me to live in the area that I live. And they're pissed off at Kroger. And it's like, I mean, I get it to a point, but your skill set is what creates more value for you. So, and I think that's a scary thing, because it's going to give businesses the ability to, you know, just focus on the best of the best, whether it be in service of people or in whatever that skill is, or how well they are at leveraging technology. And the headcount's not going to be nearly as high as it used to be or needed. And all of a sudden, all these people that aren't willing to level up their skill set or learn a trade, they're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think it's, you know, everybody else's responsibility to figure that out. It's not. Yeah. And so that is one thing that scares me. Because as I sit here and I'm, you know, stay awake at night sometimes on, you know, how do we as a business pivot and leverage this, you know, at a capacity where it creates more scalability for us, provides a bigger impact for those that we serve, as well as the people on our team. I don't think a lot of people are thinking like that right now. And that to me is wild. I mean, even, you know, a conversation I had 2 weeks ago with a business owner, and they're, you know, pivoting from their traditional trade to basically lead generation and developing, you know, local call centers. And I was just like, bro, I could build you some AI chat agents that do all of that for a tenth of what you're paying right now. And it's scalable, because I told him, I said, what I don't think you realize is you're not in the game of trying to find the demand for what you do. You're in the game of trying to be able to fill the supply. You're actually in the hiring and training game. If you want to grow this thing, if you want to do it with people. But with AI, you don't need that.
Right.
Once we have the foundation, you're set. You just got to be able to feed it, you know, and help it capture the leads and give it the process and everything else. And, you know, when he heard that, he's blown away. And then I sent him a sample of a really elementary version of what I was making to show him what it could do. And he was like, dude, I need this. I'm like, yeah. So that's the scary thing. You've got all these people that have, you know, lower skill jobs, and they're not going to be, for the businesses out there that truly start to adapt and change, they're not going to be needed. And in the next couple of years, yeah, they're still going to be needed, because there's a lot of businesses that are just going to kind of turn a blind eye to this. But when you can walk in as an AI consultant and say, you know, what are the things that are keeping you from growing, or the processes that are very mundane, and you show them those things, and then all of a sudden for X amount of dollars, they can fix all that and show you when you're going to be, you know, break even within a couple of months, and then how you can accelerate growth moving forward. For the financially responsible business owner, they're going to look at it and say, yeah, we have to make this leap in this decision. And for the ones that are very more human centric, which I'm not saying either one of them is better than the other, they both matter. But for the one that is more human centric, that's like, no, we're good. Your competitor next door is not going to say that. No. And you're going to get left behind. So then you're going to have to make this decision, yeah, you know, of what you want to do. But I would say, you know, for those that don't want to jump on the bandwagon of learning and leveraging AI, you need to get out there and learn how to be a fucking plumber. You need to be an electrician. I mean, all that stuff's still going to be needed. You need to learn a trade, because if you don't, things are going to look very, very different in 5 to 10 years for the jobs that are needed. Yeah. And that's the other thing that scares me too is, you know, I mentioned overseas, a lot of the fulfillment, you know, that we get from, or not we, but the companies get from VAs and call centers and all this shit, all that's going to fucking go away. Yeah. Unless these VAs get really, really good at leveraging AI. Because otherwise, again, it's going to go away. I mean, it's one of the things that we talk about in interviews with any new team member. What is your experience? What have you done with this? you know, with our current team, you know, how are we willing to adapt? How do we do it twice as fast? How do we do it twice as good by leveraging it? And that's the scary thing to me. I think that some of these countries that are already very impoverished are going to be even more impoverished because those jobs are going to go away.
Yeah, that's tough. It's going to be interesting to see how the world, or just even the country, like, reacts as that starts to happen. You know what I mean?
Well, they're gonna start looking. I mean, if you think of the last, you know, 10, 20, 30 years, as more and more stuff has been outsourced overseas in order to create, you know, more efficiency and profitability and scale in business, and people get frustrated with that. They're like, oh, all the jobs should be here and everything else. And yeah, sure. And everything's be 3 times as fucking expensive. And you don't want to do that. So, that's a whole different podcast. We could do the varying degrees and layers of, you know, why businesses and countries make decisions that people don't even pay attention to. They look at it as a very superficial thing. But I think that is one of the things to me that is really going to shake things up in this, you know, social economic environment, is people that don't truly understand why businesses are doing this. It's going to create more frustration and animosity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's going to do away with a lot of jobs, but it's also going to create new ones. And you just have to be, you know, and I mean, it opens up a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurship as well. Like, where, you know what I mean, you can kind of, you know, be the king of your own castle, so to speak, you know,
Right.
and build something. But for those that don't adapt, it's going to be rough.
Well, I was talking about this the other day, you know, specific to the marketing space. You know, like, oh God, it's going to completely, you know, wreck the industry. I'm like, no, it's actually going to expose. It's going to expose the people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, especially for the ones that really do, and then can really leverage technology.
Yeah.
It's going to accelerate speed of delivery, growth for the customers that they serve. It's going to expose a company's willingness to continue to learn and develop, which is one of our core values. Like, it's going to expose all of that stuff. And so, you know, we've all, for years and years and years, we've had, you know, this infinite access to information, but because there was so much information, it's like, okay, where do I go? What source? Well, now with AI, it's already pulling from all of these sources to give you this, you know, understanding of how to do the thing at a much more accelerated level. It's just, you know, are people going to do it or not?
Yeah, it excites me. The more I use AI, the more it excites me, and it may be for a weird reason, but when the outputs are terrible, and the more I have to prompt, the more I have to talk to it, and, you know, and finally get to that place. And then when you go and you look at other marketing campaigns or what's going on, and you can clearly tell they're like one prompt deep, and they're using, you know what I mean, all the stuff that they're doing. It's like, okay, yeah, this is really going to expose the real from the fake. You probably give it a couple years, because right now there's this novelty, you know, where everybody's like, oh, this is cool. But I think there's going to be, you know, you saw it even initially, like after a while, you know, that what's the email say? Hope this email finds you well. Like, people will start noticing little, you know, kind of trends in what AI puts out, and like you said, the real from the fake will definitely show itself. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I think it's a challenging conversation, because there are a lot of people on different sides. Some people are just terrified of what's going to happen. But I mean, you know, what do? You just want to sit and be scared you know, you got to, you know, do something about it. And then other people are really excited about it. So I would say, just like you did, man, to the listeners, start somewhere, go to YouTube, ChatGPT for beginners, AI for beginners.
Yeah. And also, because we see this too, do not leverage its outputs as the gospel. I get emails from people that I know, I saw you roll your eyes, but you can immediately, first of all, based off all the fucking emoticons and emojis and this kind of shit that they put in it, but It's like, man, you don't write like this, first of all. Second of all, clearly you didn't read what I sent over to you, because this is a completely AI-driven response that is missing the context of the video that I shared with, which is so funny to me. Like, and you know this, I make a lot of videos because I don't want to type a ton. So I make a lot of videos, and I also do it because I think that it's important for people to understand that the video, and when you can see me explain something, it takes a lot of the assumptions out of how you think I am saying the thing, if it were via email or in written form. So you can see the emotion and the expression and everything else, and then truly feel the connection. And what I laugh is when I share those videos and then someone is replying, leveraging AI, they're like, oh, the AI didn't see the video, so it doesn't see the context of what I had shared. And they're like, yeah, we still need to fix this though in the contract. And it's like, bro, I literally expressed all this to you, but here it is in written form too, so that you can leverage AI again to respond. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of power behind it, but I think one of the things that excites me the most is going full circle back to the human connection piece, because it's allowed me to do things faster. And we're doing this, here with Rolls here, because it's allowing us to do things faster. It is allowing us to spend more time networking and truly connecting with people. It allows me to have more lunches with people. It allows us to do more networking things with development day, because things are getting done faster. From a lead generation perspective, it allows me to really focus on creating connections with 100 people that are truly one-on-one, versus what a lot of people are doing, like this cold email with AI and everything else. Oh, let's just do, the shotgun approach where, we email 100,000 people, and if we get 17 leads, like, hey, we're great. Well, to the point that you have now exhausted and annoyed the people that you want to work with. So then if you're like, man, this just isn't getting me the throughput that I really want, now I need to truly start trying to connect with people. I'm already fucking annoyed from you. They don't want to connect. And that's 95% of LinkedIn messages that I get, and DMs and everything else. But for the ones that take the 2 seconds to shoot the video and say, hey, Jarvis, happy birthday, hope you're having a great day, and they shoot that in your DM, you pay way more attention to that, because it's real. And I think that is, again, where people are going to have the biggest advantage, is doubling down on how do we create this, and I love this book, but unreasonable hospitality for the people that we work with, and also the people that we serve that are our customers. And if they can figure out a way to leverage these things, again, to get the cumbersome bullshit off your plate, and then truly connect with people, people are going to value service at an infinite degree. I mean, I even heard, I thought it was such a cool podcast with Simon Sinek and Phil, don't remember his last name. But they were talking about, Phil's journey through being the producer and helping with the writing and content for the Everybody Loves Raymond show, and then his segue into this series that he's doing, Somebody Feed Phil. And he'd said, he's like, well, I think chefs are great writers. And they're like, well, if AI is ultimately a very great writer, do you think that it could take chefs' jobs away? Because you could ask for the best cheesecake recipe in the world, and all this kind of stuff, and if the information's out there, it'll find it. And they're like, man, we could truly have like AI, like automated food trucks. And like, yeah, and they're like, but I would still want to go to the food truck, where the 65-year-old guy that's retired that left the IT world, and I'm making this part of the story up, but left the IT world, that wanted to just make the best pizza because of the story and the human connection that's there. Sure, I would still go get the best cheesecake from the AI thing, but the experience is completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that is so important, again, are these human connections that we create, and the stories that we share, and that bond that is there.
Yeah.
And I think that even for me in my own personal life, that is one of the things over the last 2 years that I've really tried to focus on, is real deep connections with real people, and not just trying to have fuck tons of followers, because who cares?
Right. Yeah. If you can focus on connection and impact, everything else will kind of fall into line. Yeah. It's
I we ask me a lot of questions. I would like to ask you,
sure.
what has been what has been your favorite thing from a professional standpoint and how AI has been able to help you?
It's a good question. My favorite thing. Geez, I got a lot. I'd say honestly, I mentioned it before. The accelerated learning piece has been the best thing for me because a lot of times when you're in a management role, you're constantly like, I don't want to say putting out fires, but you're kind of you're trying to help the team. You're doing so many things at one time, and in this industry, in marketing, you have to be ahead of the game. Like I mean, we're competing as an agency against some of the best marketers in the world. And so there's this idea where for me, to always be learning and kind of trying to be at the cutting edge of things. And so when my days are filled with, kind of not being in that learning space, and having 5 kids, you know what I mean? I still want to be in a place to where I feel like I can learn like I did maybe 5, 6 years ago, and so AI has allowed me to really lock in, like when I want to learn something, I can pull, I can buy a course, take all the videos, dump them into something like Poppy, or dump them into, what's the other one I use? Well, there's tons of them, but I can dump those videos in there. I can extract the transcripts. I can build study guides for myself. I can build multiple choice quizzes for myself. And I literally do that just to learn new stuff, and what's happening. And, all the videos that I would sit and watch, hour long videos, I can't do that anymore. But now I can pull those transcripts, throw those bad boys in AI, and then, either listen to it back to myself. I can, it's
Yeah, no, I agree with that to a point.
okay.
So somebody shared the other day, I don't know what I was listening to, but they were asking somebody if they leverage, I don't know what the platform's called, but it's this platform where basically you can read a book a day because it gives you the 15-minute summary of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were asking one of the authors, about his book, and they're like, do you really think that you could give somebody a 15-minute summary of your book and they get the same context?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no. He's like, there's so many stories in there that the end thing that I'm trying to teach, you would understand that. You wouldn't understand how we got there and all the context around it. And I think that is so important because, I mean, yeah, can it summarize information really quickly? And for certain things, absolutely, that is a need. But for at least me, for when it comes to the learning thing, context is very important. Don't just tell me how to do it. Like, I want to understand how we got here. And I think that storytelling piece is very impactful. Like even, our quantum growth course that I'm starting to make, team members go through certain modules. I mean, I could very clearly take the 10 hours worth of video content, plug it in, get a relative outline of information, but they wouldn't understand to the degree that they could if they understood the whole story and everything that's being shared in those lessons. So I think there's a big difference between a superficial summative understanding and depth that you can get from all the other stuff. And I think another thing that, as you were sitting here thinking, and I was like, saying that, I'm like, man, I didn't share this. And it's I think so important for other people. And I'm actually going to roll this out for the different positions here too, because I think it really matters. I have a business advisory board that I have built in to a GPT that are 10 of the most influential business owners of the last decade or entrepreneurs of the last decade. And I will go through and say, this is the problem that I am seeing. This is how I think I need to fix it. But based off of these 10 personas, what would you say to me and how we fix this problem? Yeah. And man, I just start getting, just a flood, from Warren Buffett and Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and just all these, magnificent people just context back on how they would do it. And I'm like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So same thing in this space. I mean, you could very clearly, take the best PPCs in the world and then share with it campaign results. And, we're the best copywriters in the world. And, share with it the hooks and things that you have come up with. And how do we make this better? What would you recommend? And try variants of things that you normally wouldn't. Because we're all very biased based off of the information that, we have absorbed over the last however many years. This gives you a different framework and exposure at lightning speed that you wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a ton of untapped opportunity there.
Yeah.
As well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, man. I'd say one of the things that I do too with the videos, like if I have a course, what you find with a lot of courses is they start very surface level and things that you already know. So one of the things, like when it summarizes or I have like an outline of what the things are, sometimes it allows me to like, oh wait, this piece is something that I need to dive deep into, and then I'll go back and look at the video. But another thing that I'd say really, when you said the Elon Musk thing, it reminded me of another one that I have, and it's one with multiple perspectives, right? Like multiple personalities. Like you have like your person that's more cautious, you know what I mean? Your person that's like more of a like bull in a china shop. You've got all these different perspectives, and so what I do is typically, if I have an assumption or a thought or a statement about something or big idea, I'll put it there, and then I'll let each personality like pick it apart, right? And it helps me get different perspectives on an issue or problem or something like that, so that I can gather my own thoughts and build a better, whether it's an argument against myself or for myself. So that's been very helpful just over the last couple months.
I even think with this talk of this business advisory board, I even think with our own processes or a business's own processes, when you're trying to create real human connection, real experience, all of us are different, right? So I think to your point, if you had the different types of people too, that we're serving, you've got ones that are more introverted, more extroverted, ones that want to talk on the phone, ones that just want to talk via email. Like it can give you a better understanding through that customer journey process of, how do we make sure we're creating something that is going to be accepted at a high level from all these different people that we serve. So we're not just super focused on one, this target avatar, because it does matter.
Yeah.
But I think it also allows us the ability to broaden our scope, of how we be better at all these different personality types that we deal with every day.
Yeah.
And people that we work with too, because I think that's a big thing in leadership, or being a parent. All of our kids are different. Everybody on this team is different. All of our customers are different in some capacity. So it again allows you to kind of remove some of the bias that we already have and look at it from a lot of different perspectives in an accelerated manner. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of opportunity here, man. And I think to your point, like you're really excited about the future. And I think, you could be ignorant in the fact and just being like, oh, it'll all just be great. No, there's going to be some hardships and bad things that they're not necessarily, but different things that come from it. But I think for those that are willing to learn and not just try to find the superficial answer and dive deep, I think there's a lot of great opportunity.
Man, you just reminded me of something that I used to do back in the day, and I'm like, now I got to use AI for it. Well, I used to do, so I learned this from a guy that was really good at marketing and brand and just psychology. And one of the things that he used to do is go into these businesses, and basically he told a story about a dentist office, and basically what they were having customer service issue or retention issues or whatever on the back end, and weren't getting really good reviews. So what he did was he has these maybe 4 or 5 personality types, right? And when every patient that came in, they basically would, when they filled out their information, at the end of filling that information out, they would put like a 5 or 6 question quiz or something like that. And it was just like a survey, and they would answer based on how they answered the question. It would put them, if they answered mostly A, the A multiple choice, they'd put them in a bucket, and it told you what type of personality they had. And based on the personality that it spit out, they would put a sticker on the form. So everyone in the office knew how to communicate with this person, each person differently. So when they came back, they saw that, and they dealt with each client differently, and their reputation went through the roof. Well, interestingly enough, I actually have, for marketing agencies, a list of the questions that he would ask to determine the personality types, and I didn't even think about it. I could put that in. Me and one of our the former digital marketing manager talked about this last year, but sometimes you forget what you know and what you have. Like, man, we could totally do that for our clients.
And based off of those responses, there's a certain tag that's applied to that person.
Yeah.
And then we could have the appropriate automations that are in alignment with what they want, versus an annoyance, which is they call me, they text me, they send me a message, they fucking email me. Like, we could but we could clearly highlight, what is their modality of communication that they prefer the most, and meet them where they're at. Because I think that's the biggest thing that I see consistently with customer service, with a lot of businesses that don't do it very well. They want their customers to meet them where they're at and how they prefer. And it's like, man, you forgot you were in the customer service business, not the business of them serving you.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a huge call out, man. I think a huge opportunity to meet people where they're at, and you'll get a better result.
100%. Yeah, my wheels are spinning now. So with that said, guys, we've got to get back in the lab and see this AI talk, man, and trying to do better for our customers, and just be better people in life. Like, hopefully this gets your wheels spinning too. But please like, subscribe, share, comment if you got any value. But other than that, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And always take life by the horns.